And let's just look at some of the stats that they actually did manage to achieve on their platform.
Yeah.
And that was 4 billion events, 36 million documents, and 70 million containers recorded.
Wow. This is going to explain us why TradeLens has failed.
This video is brought to you by us, SCMDOJO. We provide awesome courses, guides, best practices for supply chain community.
Hi folks, welcome to one more episode of the Supply Chain Show. Today I'm going to talk about a bit controversial, and today we're going to talk about why TradeLens has failed. TradeLens was basically a pioneer initiative between IBM and Maersk, two one of the biggest brands in the world right now and have been for a long time. They have a lot of money. They bet on blockchain, and we talked about application of blockchain in supply chain. A lot. There's a lot has been written, I've written blogs. But then the question is, why they have failed? So today I have an expert, Brendan McEnroe, and he is an expert in blockchain. He's a enterprise solution expert, Web3 expert, and he's going to explain us why TradeLens has failed, right? So, Brendan, welcome to the show. How are you?
Yeah, thank you. Great.
Good. So without any further ado, I will just say a quick introduction of yourself and, basically explain to people why you're authority in the space of blockchain and supply chain. And then we could, straight away jump to the topic, which is why TradeLens have failed, right? Start with your introduction.
Yeah, so yeah, hi there, guys. So yeah, I'm Brendan McEnroe, and I was, the way I kind of got into supply chain, I've been in the industry, in the technology industry 30 years, and then I joined a startup, which was TradeWindow, and I joined as the founding CTO of that, and that was a blockchain company. In fact, it was the first blockchain company to be listed on the New Zealand Stock Exchange. And so that was all around supply chain and obviously blockchain. And through that, we did come across TradeLens and had some interactions with them. And look, let's just from the outset, TradeLens did some awesome stuff. Let's not take that way. They did do some really awesome stuff. And it goes right back to 2018 with Maersk, GTD, and IBM around establishing TradeLens. And it was a really good concept what they were trying to do in bringing all the parties together. And let's just look at some of the stats that they actually did manage to achieve on their platform.
Yeah.
And that was 4 billion events, 36 million documents, and 70 million containers recorded.
Wow.
So there was, the guys there did do some great work, and we can't take that away from them, but it did fail.
Right.
That's what we're going to dive into.
Let me, I'm not an expert like you, but I have my basic understanding of blockchain and basic understanding, or a lot of understanding of supply chain, right? So I put together my inference of such a situation. And by the way, it's not qualified inference. It's just me being judgment more than concluding based on analysis. See, blockchain being the whole part of blockchain is basically, ledger to ledger discussion and, document transfer. This is where the whole thing is built, right? So it's almost like a database built out like internet outside the normal network of doing things. Now, but if you see the supply chain, in the general trade of it, right, there's many parties involved, right? So there's a shipper, manufacturer, who's a shipper, there's the freight people, transportation people like Maersk, and then there's the customs people who basically make money when the product goes through them. And if you create a bill of lading and, you get the stamp, and then there's a lot of bank authorities make money when processing the LCs and things like that, right? So there's a very classical infrastructure of a very, very big businesses, right? Who is riding around basically to make money when the documents goes through into a transaction of shipment, especially let's call it container transaction of export from, I don't know, any shipper to any country who is importing it, right? So I believe if you just deploy blockchain as been designed, which is, for transparency, data transfer, etc. Again, I'm not a technical person, never worked on blockchain. That means banks probably won't make money. The government bodies, probably customers won't make as much money, right? So it's not in their favor to support that. I mean, and that's just my layman understanding. So please tell me if I'm wrong or right. What do you think?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So what blockchain does provide is obviously that that distributed ledger, so everybody can share the ledger and know the transactions that are being done. And so when you say, some of these parties can't make money, then they have to shift to a different level of value. So they have to move into other levels of value other than just being the custodian of the data, which a lot of them are today with some of the systems. So as soon as that moves away, they have to move into higher orders of value, and that's their kind of nervousness around how they can add that value when that kind of custodian is taken away from them.
And so, in other words, they can't make money.
In that custodian part, they can't make money, but if they move into the higher value, they can. If they can create additional services around that, and that's
exactly, and
movement.
Yeah, and this is where it takes an effort, an investment from their behalf, which they are not ready, and therefore, I think TradeLens was ahead of all of them.
Yes, yeah. At that time, yeah, they were.
Okay, so you told us there's some really fantastic facts in millions and documents and containers, which is fascinating. I didn't know about in what they've achieved. But if they've achieved such a great, numbers in millions and thousands, why they shut the shop down, given their pipeline?
Yeah, so you look at the numbers, but why have they been able to get them kind of numbers? Well, it's Maersk and the size of the market that they got. So although they did bring on other lines, they just had, been able to dominate that part of the market, but they could really bring in that significant number of containers and events. So that was why you see them large numbers. But it was Maersk and it was IBM. So here lies the problem. If you're a shipping line and you're joining into this network, then do you trust?
Okay, yeah.
Chain is meant to bring trust to this,
Mm-hmm.
but the real kind of crux of some of this problem is that you've got it being dominated by two huge organizations, and then other parties coming into that are supposed to then trust that. Would you trust it? So when we talk about innovation and really being at the disruptor in this industry,
Mm-hmm.
is it something that the big players should do? And maybe not, because how do you bring everybody else with you when there's that kind of nervousness around putting your data into that platform, knowing that these other parties have got access to it? Because
Okay, so in other words, you're saying, given IBM, who was a tech provider and tech partner in the project, was a shipper agnostic. It doesn't matter who they would work with, right? They're a technology company, right?
Technology company. So they brought the Hyperledger.
Hyperledger, right?
Technology. Yeah.
Okay. But now, Maersk being the other predominant partner, it stops other shipping company to join it. And then it takes the, let's call it the whole independent approach of blockchain. But, okay, again.
Agnostic of one particular provider. And I think that was one of the reasons that some of the other shipping lines, shippers were nervous of that.
Let me challenge this a bit, right? IBM, one of the smartest, most technology-advanced company. Maersk, I work with Maersk people. Maersk is my customer. There's probably one of the most smartest, successful people work in that company. They are not stupid, right? They must have known that other company will not join. So I think the root cause would be much a bit deeper than that, wouldn't it?
Oh, there's not just one thing. There was a combination of things.
Let's dive into it.
One of the aspects.
Right.
There is other aspects around it being considered a monolith.
Say again?
It's being considered a monolith. So yeah. So the real, if you've just got one player that just wants to really dominate the market and winner takes all, it was almost like winner takes all, and we're going to be the infrastructure of international trade, and everybody will go through us. We'll just be that infrastructure. That's a huge risk. And that's not really what the industry needs, because if that falls, as we saw, then the impact and the ripples throughout the industry is huge. And it could have been bigger than that if there was greater adoption of TradeLens. So having that monolith, and that also kind of plays into, well, how much of it was actually blockchain and decentralized, and how much of it was traditional databases and applications?
Okay, yeah, okay, that's a good point, right? Because I have seen some case studies and pictures, right? When I look into those schematics, and I'm probably gonna open it, and I'll show you that as well in a minute. But this is what I want to understand: how much is the traditional database, and how much is basically the actual blockchain technology, right? So that's what I was also wondering. So this part, how do we know what is real blockchain and what is just a database? How do we know that?
Yeah,
that's my question.
You diagram. Yeah,
I'm trying to pull here. Okay, yes. All right. Actually, I found it. Wow, my search is pretty good. Actually, okay, this is the solution architect, right?
Yeah.
Right. Would you mind explaining this if you could? I know you have not seen this diagram before. I know you have not.
No, I think I've seen this. Yeah, I've seen this diagram before. Yeah.
Okay.
So, obviously you've got different
this is the
participants on the tour. Yeah. And you've got the EDIs, XML APIs into the platform. With the platform APIs, which we'll come to in a second. And then you've got the various different platform services backed by the blockchain network.
Mm-hmm.
And they show the TradeLens applications because there is the APIs, which the various different parties can interact with. But there was also a UI into it as well. So TradeLens had a UI capability. And it also does allude within that marketplace that there would be third-party applications. And we'll also come to that, and we'll dive into a little deeper into that third-party applications and what that meant for some of the other businesses in the industry. But from that, you can see it's showing everything on the blockchain network, but that looks really questionable. And I challenged that. And looking at some of the APIs, and I doubt everything was being written to the network. If you look at the kind of the time when that was done, there was obviously Hyperledger, so that was a lot more predictable in storing on the blockchain, as opposed to Ethereum at the time, with the unpredictability that could bring. But I really question how much was actually written to the network. And if you look at some of the other documents that they've got, they talk about anchoring the data into the blockchain. So what that's about is taking some of the data elements, hashing them, and just recording them into the blockchain, but keeping the data somewhere else. So then you've got that anchored, you've got that immutability of the data, the original data. So they're hashing that, taking that hash and putting it into the blockchain network. So yeah, it was a bit of kind of smoke and mirrors around what was actually going on there and what was being stored at that blockchain level.
Okay, so my layman understanding of this schematic, right? So you are a shipping ecosystem. You could be carrier, ports, financial services, which is banks, all the document, which is your LCs, your bill of ladings, whatever, which goes through the platform, which the APIs they build, correct? Now, they have either you can contact through APIs or you do the EDIs and XML and other integrations. Fine. So that means all those shipping or TradeLens ecosystem players need to have access to EBS, right? I mean, my first question is on third party or TradeLens application third party. Really, is other people have made any applications there? I mean, maybe do you know? I don't know.
Yeah, and had discussions around connecting to some of them as well. And I don't think they got the adoption that would have really supercharged it if they had some of them third party applications. And I think that was also not just the nervousness of the shippers, but also the nervousness of other third-party technology providers around basically giving all their data to TradeLens as well.
Right. No. Okay. And then this area is also questionable, right? Platform services and blockchain, whether blockchain or not. So maybe blockchain enabled, anything interesting in this, security, open APIs.
They talk about the permissioned as well. Which was on the slide before, which makes sense, which is basically permissioning the data to the various different parties that would need to see that data.
Okay, cool. So our mission, marketplace, platform ecosystem, TradeLens ecosystem. Yeah, I wouldn't call it anything there except this is interesting. So I'm going to stop.
Really quite level.
Yeah, no, but that's a good discussion. So people at least understand how what they try to do, how they try to. But if you look into this picture, I think it's a very big undertaking, right? You know, a trade or shipping industry if you talk to people in Maersk and IBM, they think their own company is very big undertaking in itself, right? It's hard to find out what's going on in 80,000, 150,000 people in any organization. But anyway, if you take industry, it's a very big undertaking. So do you think the way they've gone about and approaching the market adoption, i.e. in a classical sense of go to market, is also an issue in terms of getting the adoption? Maybe they could have done something better.
Yes, that's an interesting one. So obviously we mentioned earlier that because of Maersk, they were able to get a lot of adoption, but that was predominantly through the Maersk itself. But if you look at the kind of the total end-to-end of supply chain, and not just the shipping lines, not just the ports, but to really bring true end-to-end, right from exporter, all the parties and participants in between to the importer, to get that is quite an undertaking, and to get that internationally is even more of an undertaking. And I don't think they could have cracked that on their own, and I don't think they should have been allowed to crack that on their own. I think that would have been a huge risk for the industry. Where we need to be is actually having more of a network of networks. So instead of being reliant on one, because businesses will fail, it happens, but we can't let businesses failing damage supply chain. We just so having that one kind of monolith is very dangerous for the end-to-end supply chain.
Okay.
So
no, I just want to that part is clear. I want to move the discussion further into the implications on industry, what can we learn, and what we could do better, right? So I think on that direction, my question here is following: that if, let's assume, the decision of TradeLens was to shut down, why shut down? Why don't they spin off as an independent company? Why not sell it to somebody? Why shut down?
You know, that really baffled me, and when I saw it announced,
they invest millions.
At the beginning, it was
millions of dollars.
It's like they have to spend, and look, there's been some great work done there, and there's some great takeaways from that. So why just completely, throw everything away, just shut it down, switch it off?
Yeah, just sell it to somebody, right? Maybe it's some blockchain startup or something.
Yeah, I think obviously Maersk still want to do things in supply chain. So whether they're kind of absorbing that into some of their projects, I don't know. We'll probably learn from that. But yeah, I was really surprised. No one kind of picked it up and says, no, we there's some great work here. We're going to take these bits that are useful. We're not going to use these other bits and move it forward. But probably move it forward, not with a single ownership, maybe a group of businesses take and take it more from a kind of a standards-based approach on the learnings from it.
Okay, last two questions, because we want to keep the episode less than 30 minutes. What is the impact of TradeLens failure? And I'm going to use the word failure because failed, it's shut down, to the industry in supply or blockchain industry or blockchain application in supply chain? Because we needed a good story for blockchain to work, right? We have a good story on cloud. We have a good story on other technologies as well. We have a 3D printing is helping supply chain industry. The cloud is helping. Digital twin is helping. Artificial intelligence is helping. Machine learning is helping. So all the technology is helping supply chain improve. I can't find one good case study where blockchain is helping supply chain improve.
There is lots. I think too much emphasis was placed at that time on it being a blockchain solution. First and foremost, every solution has got to be a value-based solution, not just a technology. The technology is an enabler for that.
Mm-hmm.
So pushing it hard back then for businesses that weren't as savvy or very nervous of what blockchain meant for them is the wrong approach, because it's almost, it's almost like, the first rule of blockchain is not to mention blockchain, because it's just some of the capability that will provide the immutability and the transparency of the transactions, but it shouldn't be first and foremost driven by that technology word. It should be thought of from the value perspective.
Blockchain is not doing well, is it? Crypto is dying. TradeLens is shut. Right? So much coin is falling. His cryptocurrency is in dire shape. People losing millions. It's not doing well, is it?
Like anything, things will be misused. I think there's an awful lot of value to be had right across supply chain in a number of different areas.
That leads to my last question, right? If you have a blank sheet of paper, the technology inside out, right? If you would have want to create an blockchain application for supply chain, what area you would pick? What area would you pick, and what you would create, which will help supply chain?
I think the problems we're facing in supply chain is actually bringing the businesses together with the innovation. So it's not just that singular innovation. So it's, how do we bring the businesses together? How do we actually get them to agree on standards and adoption of them standards? How do we create an ecosystem where a number of different players can play into that, which does overall reduce the risk around supply chain? The more kind of players that you've got, if one of them fails, then you've got others that can kind of step in. So there's a whole heap around obviously financial transactions, and you mentioned the banks, but the banks play a huge part with inside supply chain, from various different credits, bills of lading, that are required by them for a lot of the finance that's used with inside banking. So it's being able to bring trust and speed and predictability and on the transactions that are going to be performed there. From a consumer perspective, obviously, there's the traceability of goods, and we're seeing ESG become super important and moving beyond carbon.
Yeah.
So that piece is going to be huge. Supply chain is a big part of what we're doing from an ESG perspective is right through the supply chain. There's a huge carbon footprint, but not just carbon footprint, the impacts on the environment from the goods throughout supply chain. So there's a great opportunity there around that traceability. But being able to, how do we bring the parties together and to make decisions around standards? So there's definitely something there in agreeing and having that governance model across that blockchain and some of the other concepts can really help us. There's as obviously there's as sorry just
It's okay.
Yep. As we mature as well, one of the huge things which has been a hindrance for us, and IBM will have experienced it, I've experienced it, what we were trying to do in some of the solutions, is the legal frameworks keeping in step with the technology.
Yeah. That's the
The technology is really cracking forward, and the legal framework,
the legislation, this thing, autonomous driving, drones, uses of drones. And I think if those legislation comes as fast as the technology is, then we probably will seeing autonomous, drives on the road right now. And maybe drones must be doing deliveries, which they're not allowed to do because the laws are not supporting them in most countries anyway. All right.
So the big thing for supply chain, obviously, we're passing documents around. That's what's happening today, and just the digitization of them documents didn't have the legal standing. So we had the model law that was ratified inside Singapore. We've just seen the announcement yesterday, the 20th. I don't know when this is going to go out, but the 20th, which was the UK, the first of the G7 where digital representation of the documents inside trade carry the same weight as the paper documents. Huge step. That was a big blocker for a lot of businesses trying to digitize international trade.
Okay, thank you very much, Brandon. I think your knowledge we need to be distributed more and more, and that's what we're trying to do here, right? Thank you for explaining the reason for I think what TradeLens is. A shame what had happened. As you explained, they could have found a better usage of what they built. They might be doing it anyway, which we just don't know.
They're probably
doing it. Right, yeah. They probably are, because they spend a lot of money, and IBM has as well. Okay, cool. So we look forward to what they will commit. By no means, just want to put a disclaimer here. I'm a big fan of Maersk. They are my customer as well, so I'm equally disappointed of why this failed. And actually, I'm writing a book on supply chain digitalization, and believe me or not, until last year, we have agreed that blockchain could be the case study into my book as application or success stories of blockchain and supply chain. So now it won't be a success story. It will be, unfortunately, a non-successful story. But having said that, it is fascinating story. Right. So with that said, Brandon, thank you for your time. Right.
No, thank you.
Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for support. We have reached more than 22,000 subscribers on our channel. So I just want to say thank you with this episode, and we appreciate your support to SCMDOJO, to us, and we love to bring clever, smart, successful, knowledgeable people like Brandon on our show. As always, keep it simple and keep it real. Ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you.